Why does she light up when you chase but hold a deeper respect when you don't? At first glance, it seems like a contradiction, but it's not. Attraction often craves pursuit, yet true respect is born in restraint. When you run after her, you feed her ego, but when you hold your ground, you show something far more powerful: self-control, discipline, and the ability to value your peace above her games. That's what makes her stop and think. In this video, we're going to break down why women enjoy being pursued, but why they admire a man who doesn't lose himself in the process. We'll tie this lesson to Stoic wisdom, showing you how to master your emotions, protect your dignity, and stand as the kind of man she can't ignore. Before we get started, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment with one word: respect. Now, let's dive in. The thrill of the chase. Number 1. The thrill of the chase. At first, attraction feels like a chase. She enjoys being pursued. It makes her feel wanted, valuable, even powerful. But here's where most men slip up. They confuse chasing with proving their worth. And this is where the line gets blurry. A little pursuit in the beginning can be exciting. It shows genuine interest. But when a man begins to lose himself in the chase, sending constant texts, always being the first to call, rearranging his life to win her attention, he unknowingly creates an imbalance. He thinks he's showing love and devotion, but in her mind it starts to look like neediness. You see, what begins as thrill for her quickly becomes reassurance. I've got him no matter what I do. And the second she feels that certainty, the respect fades. Picture two men meeting the same woman. The first man immediately showers her with attention, responds within seconds, and constantly asks when he can see her again. The second man shows his interest, but he's measured. He reaches out, but he doesn't overwhelm. He's busy with his life, and while she's curious about him, she notices that he's not rearranging everything for her. Which man do you think leaves a stronger impression? The first becomes predictable, even boring. The second, he sparks intrigue. His presence says, I value you, but I also value myself. That balance is magnetic. The Stoics understood this dynamic long before dating apps and late-night texting. Epictetus taught that we can't control others, only ourselves. When you spend all your energy chasing her, you're trying to control how she feels about you, hoping your pursuit will guarantee affection. But true power comes from self-mastery. The Stoic man desires, yes, but he doesn't let desire consume him. He remembers that desperation is poison because it robs him of dignity and clouds his judgment. So when she wants the chase, understand it for what it is: a test of energy, not a measure of your worth. If you can step back, slow down, and let her lean toward you instead of smothering her with attention, something changes in her perception. Suddenly, you're not just another man chasing, you're the man she respects, because respect doesn't grow from constant pursuit. It grows when you show you can stand still, calm and centered, even in the middle of desire. Think about it this way: the chase is exciting for her, but respect comes when you know when to stop running, and the man who can hold his ground, who knows his value isn't tied to her response, becomes unforgettable. That's the quiet confidence of a Stoic, and that's what turns the thrill of the chase into lasting attraction. Number 2, the illusion of control. The illusion of control. When she makes you chase, it feeds her ego. It gives her a sense of control, like she holds the upper hand. Every unanswered text that still gets a follow-up from you, every delayed reply that you anxiously wait for, all of it reinforces her belief that she's steering the dynamic. For a while, this illusion is intoxicating for her. She tells herself, I can pull him close or push him away whenever I want. But here's the hidden flaw: control built on games isn't real control. It's surface level. It lasts only as long as you're willing to play. Imagine this. She takes 3 hours to respond to your message and you still reply within 3 minutes. She cancels a plan last minute and you instantly try to reschedule, showing you'll accept whatever scraps she gives. In her mind, this becomes confirmation. She believes she can dictate the pace, the rhythm, the entire relationship. But when you suddenly stop chasing, when you don't feed that illusion anymore, the ground shifts beneath her. She realizes her power was only sustained by your participation. Without your pursuit, the illusion fades, and she's left confronting an uncomfortable truth. She never really had control. Marcus Aurelius captured this perfectly. You have power over your mind, not outside events. The Stoic man lives this wisdom. He doesn't let a woman's games disturb his inner balance. He recognizes that her attempt to control him is external and therefore fleeting. When he chooses not to chase, he's not punishing her. He's protecting his peace. He's showing that his self-worth doesn't rise or fall with her approval. And paradoxically, that's when respect enters the picture. She may be unsettled at first, even frustrated because she expected compliance. But over time, she starts to admire the man who cannot be easily manipulated. Think of 2 men in this scenario. One is desperate to prove himself, bending at every curve of her tests. The other calmly steps back, lets her silence sit, and continues with his own life, his work, his passions, his growth. Which man holds the real control? The one reacting to every move, or the one steady enough not to be moved at all? Women might enjoy the illusion of control at first, but deep down they respect the man who does. Not let his peace be dictated by anyone else. So when she tries to make you chase, remember, it's not about winning her game. It's about stepping out of it entirely. She may expect you to keep running in circles, but when you stop, you reveal the truth that the only control that lasts is mastery over yourself. And that's the kind of strength she can't help but respect. And that's the perfect place to pause for a moment. What do you think? Have you ever noticed how the whole dynamic shifts the second you stop feeding into her games? Drop your perspective in the comments. I'd love to hear your take. Or if you want to keep it simple, just type "real control begins with self-control" to let me know you're with me. And while you're here, hit that like button. It helps this message reach more men who need it. Now, let's move on to the next insight. The test of your patience. Number 3. The test of your patience. Your restraint is powerful because most men can't manage it. They fold at the first sign of distance, flooding her phone with messages, trying to prove they're still there, desperate for reassurance. It's a pattern she knows well because she has seen it countless times. Men unable to handle uncertainty. Men who mistake constant pursuit for strength. But when you don't follow that path, when you choose silence instead of panic, calm instead of chaos, something different happens. She starts to notice a quality she rarely encounters. Discipline. Patience is not weakness. It's not about waiting passively with nothing going on in your life. True patience is active. It's the ability to hold your ground without rushing into action simply because emotions demand it. Most men give in to that demand. They feel ignored for a day or two and immediately break, thinking a text or call will fix everything. But in reality, that impulsive neediness only lowers their value in her eyes. On the other hand, your restraint communicates strength on a deeper level. It shows her you're not reacting to her moves, you're responding from your own principles. Seneca wrote, "No man is free, who is a slave to his impulses. Think about how this applies here. The impulse to chase when she pulls back is strong. It feels almost irresistible. But freedom is found in mastery, not surrender. When you resist that pull, when you remain patient, you're proving something far more important than your affection. You're proving that you can govern yourself. And that's what sets you apart from most men who rush into action without thought. Imagine two scenarios. In the first, she takes hours to respond, and the man can't handle the silence. He sends 3 more texts, checks her social media, maybe even tries to call. His emotions are on display, and she feels his desperation. In the second, she takes the same hours to respond, but this man waits calmly. He goes about his day, focuses on his work, his fitness, his goals. When her message finally comes, he replies without bitterness, without overexcitement, just steady, composed. Which man do you think she respects more? Which one leaves her wondering, why isn't he reacting like everyone else? Your patience becomes its own kind of power. It unsettles her because she's used to men breaking under pressure. But your self-control shows her something rare, that your world doesn't revolve around her responses. And paradoxically, this is what draws her closer. She begins to realize that while others seek her approval, you already stand on solid ground. And that calm steadiness born from patience is the kind of presence that not only earns respect, but also lingers in her mind long after the moment has passed. Number 4. Respect is born from. Respect is born from boundaries. Boundaries. She may enjoy the chase, but she only respects the man who sets boundaries. Think about it. If you're always available, always saying yes, always bending your life around her moods and demands, what does that communicate? It tells her you don't value yourself enough to say no. And in time, that constant availability makes you invisible in her eyes. You become predictable, easy to reach, and easy to dismiss. But when you guard your time, your focus, and your values, you send a very different message. You show her that your life has structure, that you live by principles, and that her presence is welcome, but not the center of your existence. Boundaries are not about rejection. They're about respect. Respect for your work, your goals, your peace of mind, and most importantly, respect for yourself. When you make it clear that you won't sacrifice everything just to please her, she sees that you have standards, and standards create respect. Women may test limits, sometimes unconsciously, just to see if a man really has a backbone. If you let everything slide, she learns you don't. But if you calmly and consistently enforce your boundaries, she discovers you are different. You cannot control what she does, whether she pulls back, whether she tries to play games, or whether she demands more of your time. But you can control what you allow, where you draw the line, and how you respond. A Stoic man doesn't react with anger or drama when a boundary is tested. He simply stands firm. His calm resistance says more than any argument ever could. Imagine she calls you last minute, asking you to cancel your plans with friends to see her. The man without boundaries says yes immediately, afraid she'll lose interest if he declines. The man with boundaries, however, appreciates the invitation but stands by his prior commitment. He doesn't apologize for living his life. He simply states the truth. I already have plans tonight, but let's figure out another time. In that moment, she may act disappointed, maybe even frustrated, but deep down, she feels something stronger respect because he's not bending his entire world around her. He's showing her that his time and his word matter. And here's the paradox. The man who sets boundaries is the one who ultimately wins her admiration. Why? Because he respects himself enough not to chase approval. She may enjoy the chase, but she can't truly value a man who has no limits. Respect is born when she sees that while you may want her, you don't need her to validate your worth. That's the kind of presence that separates you from every other man. Attention versus approval. Number 5. Attention versus approval. She might crave your attention, but she tests to see if you crave her approval. And this is where most men stumble, because they don't recognize the difference. Attention is simple. It's what you give when you genuinely like someone. It's the act of listening, showing interest, being present. Approval, on the other hand, is something far trickier. It's often withheld on purpose, dangled like a prize to see if you'll lose yourself trying to win it. And the moment you start chasing her approval, you step into a trap. Suddenly, you're not connecting with her from strength. You're trying to convince her you're good enough. Think about how this looks in real life. She leaves your message on, seen for hours, and you immediately double text. She laughs with another guy at a party, and you feel the urge to compete for her attention. Or she pulls away emotionally, and you start showering her with compliments, hoping she'll come back around. Each of these moments reveals the same thing. You've shifted from giving attention freely to begging for her approval. And once that shift happens, the balance of respect is lost. She no longer sees you as the grounded man she was drawn to. She sees someone willing to abandon his own center just to keep her happy. Epictetus taught that freedom comes from valuing only what's within your control. Your words, your actions, your state of mind, these belong to you. But her approval, that's outside of your control. The moment you tie your peace to it, you've surrendered your freedom. And ironically, that surrender is exactly what makes her respect you less. A man who chases validation communicates that his worth depends on another person. A Stoic man, however, doesn't play that game. He knows that approval freely given is meaningful, but approval that must be begged for is worthless. Now, here's the paradox. When you stop chasing her validation, that's when she starts giving it. Why? Because your detachment makes her realize you're not like the others. You don't crumble when she withholds affection. You don't chase when she creates distance. Instead, you remain calm, steady, focused on your life. And in doing so, you flip the dynamic. She begins to offer the very approval she once withheld, not because you asked for it, but because she sees she can't control you with it. So remember this. Attention is healthy when it's genuine. Approval is toxic when it becomes the thing you're chasing. Give your attention because you want to, not because you need something in return. Let her approval come if it comes, but never compromise your dignity to earn it. In the end, a woman doesn't respect the man who begs for validation. She respects the one who values himself enough to never need it. And before we move forward, take a moment to reflect on this. How often have you caught yourself slipping into the trap of chasing someone's approval instead of giving your attention freely? It's a subtle shift, but it changes everything. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective on this. Do you see the difference between attention and approval in your own experiences? Share your story below if this message resonates with you, and if you're finding value here, make sure to hit that like button. It helps this message reach more men who need it. Now let's dive into the next insight. The strength in stillness. Number 6. The strength in stillness. When you don't chase, you create a silence that speaks louder than any words. At first, this silence confuses her, even frustrates her. She's used to men rushing in to close the gap, to reassure her, to keep the spotlight on her. Most men can't handle stillness. They fill it with noise. They plead, argue, explain, or try to convince her of their worth. But when you don't, when you stay calm, composed, and unshaken by her withdrawal, that quiet presence becomes louder than anything you could have said. It unsettles her precisely because it's rare. Silence forces reflection. When you don't chase, she has no drama to feed on, no reaction to interpret, no reassurance to lean on. She's left with herself, her own thoughts, her own doubts, her own insecurities. And in that space, your stillness grows heavier. The absence of noise becomes its own message that you are not desperate, that your life is not dictated by her choices, and that you don't need to prove yourself. This is where stillness transforms into strength. Think of it this way. Two men face the same situation. One is ignored for a few days and can't take it. He sends long paragraphs questioning what went wrong, demanding answers. The other is ignored the same way, but he remains centered. He continues with his life, invests in his growth, and carries himself as if nothing is broken. Which one do you think occupies more space in her mind? The first fades quickly because his emotions are predictable and easy to dismiss. The second lingers because his calm composure makes her wonder, why isn't he reacting like everyone else? Why doesn't my silence shake him? That question alone becomes the hook that keeps her thinking. The Stoics understood this power well. Stillness is the practical expression of that truth. When you refuse to let her distance dictate your actions, you're proving mastery over yourself. You're saying without words that her behavior doesn't control your peace. And that's magnetic, because most men lose themselves to impulse. But the Stoic man rises above it. Your stillness is not indifference, it's discipline. It shows that you know when to act and when to hold back, when to speak and when silence says more. In a world full of noise, the man who can remain calm becomes unforgettable. And that's the paradox. By doing nothing, by holding steady, you create the deepest impact. She may crave chaos, but she respects the man who stands still in the storm. That's the strength in stillness, the kind that cannot be shaken. Number 7. Attraction through purpose. Attraction through purpose. She may want your attention, but she respects your purpose more. Attention can make her feel good for a moment, but purpose makes her feel something far deeper, respect. You see, attention is easy to give. Any man can send compliments, likes, and late-night texts, but purpose, that's rare. A man with purpose is building something bigger than himself. He's shaping his body through discipline, sharpening his mind through study, and crafting a life that isn't defined by anyone else's approval. That's what makes him stand out. When your life revolves around her, you make her the mission, and ironically, that makes you less appealing. She doesn't want to be the mission. She wants to be inspired by a man who has one. Think about it. Which man is more attractive? The one who cancels his goals just to chase her around, or the one who keeps showing up for his dreams no matter who comes or goes? The second man radiates strength because his value doesn't depend on her reaction. He lives by his own compass, and that's magnetic. A Stoic man understands this. He knows that chasing approval is a distraction from his higher calling. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." That means people, even women, may not always understand your focus, your grind, your discipline. But you don't live for their applause, you live for your purpose, and, ironically, it's that very dedication that pulls people to war. Did you? She might test you, try to pull you off your path, or demand you prove your affection by abandoning your mission. But when you don't fold, when you stay committed, she feels the weight of your resolve, and deep down she respects it. Imagine a man training for a marathon. His girlfriend asks him to skip practice just to hang out. The man without purpose gives in, thinking it will keep her happy. But over time, his lack of commitment makes him appear weak. The man with purpose, however, values her, but also values his training. He says, "I can't tonight, but let's plan something after my run." At first, she may be annoyed, but later she feels something stronger. Admiration, because he stood firm, because his mission wasn't negotiable. Purpose is attractive because it creates gravity. A man of purpose doesn't chase, he pulls. His focus, his ambition, his discipline create a natural magnetism. Women may enjoy attention, but they respect purpose. And in the end, respect lasts longer than desire. That's why nothing is more attractive than a man who knows where he's going and keeps walking that path no matter who tries to stand in his way. Take a moment to reflect. Are you living for attention or for purpose? Attention fades, but purpose builds respect. Share your thoughts in the comments or simply type purpose over approval if this hits home. And don't forget to like the video. It helps this message reach more men who need it. Now, let's move on. Number 8. The mirror effect. The mirror effect. Your refusal to chase makes her reflect. She starts asking herself questions she never expected. Why isn't he chasing me? What makes him different? Why doesn't he react like all the others? That reflection unsettles her because it flips the script she's used to. Most men crumble when she pulls away. They flood her phone, beg for answers, or try harder to win her back. But when you don't, when you stand calm, focused, and unshaken, her own behavior is exposed to her. It's like you're holding up a mirror, not through words, but through your silence. And in that mirror she sees something she didn't expect. A man who knows his worth. At first, this reflection is uncomfortable. She might feel annoyed, even angry, because you've broken the pattern. But discomfort often leads to clarity. By not chasing, you force her to confront the truth. Your value doesn't shrink just because she withholds attention. If anything, it shines brighter because you've shown that you're not dependent on her validation, and that realization can be powerful. It shifts the way she views you from someone she thought she controlled to someone she now has to reckon with. Suppose she tries the same game with 2 different men. With the first, she pulls back and he instantly panics, chasing her harder. She feels validated but not impressed. With the second, she pulls back and he doesn't move. He continues living his life, building his craft, spending time with people who matter. When she looks at him, she doesn't see desperation. She sees dignity. And in that moment, she's confronted with her own assumptions. Why doesn't he break like the others? Why doesn't her silence have power over him? Those questions linger, and in that space, respect is born. The Stoics spoke about this kind of reflection often. Marcus Aurelius said the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Your calm refusal to chase plants new thoughts in her mind, thoughts she can't ignore. She begins to wonder if she misjudged you, if she underestimated your strength. And that curiosity, that reflection works in your favor because instead of you chasing her, now she's chasing answers about you. That's the mirror effect. Your silence reflecting back her own behavior, your discipline showing her what true value looks like. You don't need to tell her you're different. She sees it. And once she sees it, she can't unsee it. Your worth becomes undeniable. Not because you shouted it, but because your stillness revealed it. And that is the kind of impression that lingers long after the game is over. Desire without need. Number 9. Desire without need. There's a big difference between wanting a woman and needing her. Wanting is natural. It's human to feel desire, to appreciate beauty, to be drawn to connection. But needing, that's where things fall apart. Need places her on a throne above your dignity. It says, without you, I am incomplete. And no matter how much she enjoys being wanted, she can never truly respect a man who needs her to breathe. That's why the strongest form of attraction comes not from desperation, but from freedom. The ability to want without being enslaved by need. This is where the Stoics offer timeless wisdom. They didn't reject love, passion, or connection. They practiced detachment, not to avoid life, but to remain free within it. Epictetus reminded us that freedom is found in self-mastery, not in clinging to what you cannot control. When you apply that to relationships, it means this. You can love her, desire her, and cherish her presence, but you do not collapse if she pulls away. You remain steady because your identity isn't built on her attention. It's built on your principles, your purpose, and your character. Picture two men. One feels desire for a woman, but turns it into dependency. He adjusts his entire life around her, sacrifices his values, and clings to her moods like a ship tossed by waves. The other man feels the same, desire, but he holds it with balance. He shows interest, but he doesn't beg. He shares time, but he doesn't abandon his mission. He makes her part of his world, not the center of it. Which man do you think she respects more? Which man do you think she actually craves? Desire with need suffocates. Desire without need inspires. There's a paradox here. When you show a woman that you want her, but you're not afraid to lose her, you stand out. You're telling her, I value you, but I don't depend on you to define me. That message creates a unique kind of magnetism. She realizes that your affection isn't born from fear. It's born from choice, and choice is powerful. A man who chooses her while being fully capable of walking away if his values are compromised is far more attractive than the man who clings to her out of desperation. So let her see your desire, but never let it look like dependence. Desire says, I want you because I enjoy your presence. Need says, I need you because without you I am nothing. And the truth is, no woman can respect a man who has erased himself to keep her. Show her instead that your life is already full, already meaningful. Then when you want her, she'll know it's genuine, not a plea for completion, but an invitation to join a life already strong. That's desire without need. And that's what makes a man unforgettable. Number 10. When silence speaks louder. When silence speaks louder, every time you don't rush in, your silence becomes heavier. She expected pursuit calls, texts, explanations, some kind of emotional storm. That's the pattern most men follow, and she's grown used to it. But instead of desperate attempts to pull her back, what she finds is stillness. And that stillness unsettles her more than any argument ever could. Because silence doesn't just fill space, it expands, it lingers, and it makes her confront questions she wasn't prepared to face. Why isn't he chasing? Why isn't he trying to explain himself? Did I misjudge his feelings or his strength? Silence works like an echo. At first it feels like nothing, but the longer it lasts, the louder it grows. What once seemed like control, her ability to pull away and watch you react suddenly, feels like uncertainty. She realizes that she can't read you, can't predict your next move, and can't assume you'll always be there. And that's when the balance shifts. The power of silence isn't in what you say, it's in what you refuse to say. It's a message written not in words, but in absence. My peace doesn't. To depend on your attention. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." And bravery in this context means resisting the impulse to rush in, to defend, to prove yourself. Most men collapse under that pressure. They need to be heard, they need to explain, they need to be validated. But the man who can hold back, who can endure silence without breaking, shows a level of discipline that cannot be faked. His restraint becomes his strength. Imagine this in practice. She leaves your message unanswered. The typical man spirals, sending 3 more texts or calling late at night to clear things up. But you let the silence breathe. You go to the gym, you work on your craft, you meet with friends. Hours or days later, when she finally does reach out, she's not just responding to you, she's reacting to the weight of your stillness. She's been sitting with it, thinking about it, feeling its presence in a way she didn't expect. And here's the paradox. Silence often says what words cannot. It communicates that you're not desperate, that you're not shaken, and that your value isn't up for negotiation. Over time, that silence doesn't push her away. It draws her in. Because in a world full of men trying too hard, the man who can say more by saying nothing stands apart. That's when silence speaks louder. It doesn't just shift the dynamic, it redefies it. Before we move forward, pause and ask yourself this. How do you usually respond when faced with that quiet gap? Do you rush to fill it, or do you have the strength to let it breathe? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your take. Or, if you want to keep it simple, just type "stillness is strength" to let me know you're here. And if this insight resonates, hit that like button so more men can discover the power of restraint. Now, let's dive into the next part. Number 11. The respect that lasts. The respect that lasts. In the end, she may want the thrill of being chased, but she'll respect you if you don't. Desire may pull her toward you for a moment, but respect is what keeps her looking at you differently than every swoon. Other man. Chasing is short-lived. It creates excitement, maybe even drama, but it fades. Respect, on the other hand, endures because it's built on something deeper. Your ability to hold yourself with dignity, to stand firm in your values, and to live by principles that don't shift based on her approval. She might laugh with her friends about how many men pursue her, how easy it is to get attention. But ask yourself this: how many of those men does she truly admire? How many leave a lasting impression on her mind once the thrill is gone? Very few, because chasing is common. But when she meets a man who doesn't collapse under her silence, who doesn't fold when tested, who doesn't hand over his peace of mind just to keep her happy, that man stands apart. He shows her something rare, strength rooted in self-mastery. This is what the Stoics taught long ago. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that external validation is fleeting, but character endures. Epictetus said that the path to freedom is found in discipline, not independence. These lessons echo in relationships today. A man who makes his purpose the center of his life instead of a woman's approval creates gravity. He becomes the kind of man who draws people in naturally, not because he's chasing, but because his presence carries weight. She may come and go, but his steadiness remains, and that steadiness is what earns lasting respect. Think of two men again. One spends his days anxiously chasing after her, adjusting everything about himself to keep her attention. At first, she enjoys it, but soon he becomes forgettable. The other man, however, lives his life with clarity. He invests in his craft, pursues his ambitions, and protects his peace. When he chooses to spend time with her, it's not because he needs her approval, it's because he genuinely wants to. That choice, coming from freedom instead of fear, makes all the difference. She respects him not for his attention, but for his independence. And that's the essence of being a Stoic man, mastering yourself first and letting the world adjust to your gravity.